The ship descended through the atmosphere of Vex 7, and Emma Carter pressed her face against the viewport. Below, the station hung in space like a massive ring of metal and light. The Institute, the most feared military academy in the known galaxy. Emma was 19 years old. She had traveled 40 light-years from Earth to get here. The selection had been shocking, a message from the Galactic Council stating that humans could apply for advanced training. Only 5 humans had been accepted. Emma was one of them. The landing bay was cold and sterile. White walls stretched endlessly in all directions. Emma grabbed her single bag and stepped onto the platform. A tall figure materialized from the shadows. This was Instructor, a being made of purple flesh that seemed to absorb light. His eyes had no pupils, just flat surfaces that reflected everything. "You are the human," said. It was not a question. "Yes, Emma Carter," she replied. "Your quarters are in Sector 7. The orientation ceremony begins in 1 hour. Do not be late." Turned and walked away without waiting for a response. Emma found her way through the corridors. The academy was massive. Every wall was identical. She passed windows showing the endless black of space and the distant stars. Other cadets walked past her. Some were tall, some were short, some had skin that glowed, and some looked like they were made of crystal. They all stopped to stare at her. None had ever seen a human before. Her quarters were small. A bed, a desk, a locker. Emma unpacked her bag and pulled on the gray training suit she had been given before boarding the ship. It fit perfectly. She checked the time on the wall display. 40 minutes remained. Emma walked to the orientation chamber. The room was enormous. Rows of seats climbed toward the ceiling. Hundreds of cadets sat in silence. Emma found an empty seat near the back. A cadet sat next to her. Had 4 arms and skin that shifted color based on emotion. "You are human," they said. Her color shifted to a curious purple. "I am Lyra. My family paid enormous fees to send me here. What did your family trade for your position?" "I don't know," Emma said honestly. "My name is Emma. They just selected me." Lyra's color shifted to something that might have been respect. "That is unusual. The academy only takes the most expensive and the most desperate." A figure entered from the main stage. This being was different from the others. It stood nearly 8 feet tall. Its body was made of crystal that caught light and refracted it into patterns of blue and white. This was Commander. The entire hall fell silent immediately. Even breathing seemed to stop. "Welcome," said. The voice was like glass breaking, sharp and precise. "You are here because you paid for it, because your governments demanded it, or because we needed a challenge. This academy will strip away everything you believe makes you strong. It will take your pride, your certainty, and your identity. When you leave this place, you will be warriors, or you will not leave at all." Walked slowly across the stage. Every eye followed. "I have trained 847 cadets. Every single one broke. They cried, they begged, they surrendered to the reality of their own weakness. The best became soldiers, the rest went home as failures. The academy does not care what you become, but we will find out." Emma felt Lyra shift in her seat. This color had become a nervous yellow. Continued, "The discipline protocol begins tomorrow morning. You will wake at dawn. You will exercise until you cannot exercise. You will learn until your minds burn. You will be criticized, humiliated, and broken. This is not cruelty. This is preparation. The galaxy is hostile. Other species want what you have. They want your resources, your worlds, and your extinctions. You will learn to be worthy of survival." The commander paused. "One of you is a human. This is an experiment. We are curious if can be trained like civilized species. Humans evolved on a hostile planet. They survived competition from their own kind. They faced predators that hunted them from birth. Humans learned to kill before they learned to read." Turned and looked directly at Emma. "I hope you will prove interesting. I hope you will not disappoint me." The ceremony ended. Cadets filed out slowly. Emma moved with them, her heart beating hard. She had read the academy files. She understood what was coming. But understanding something and experiencing it were different things. That night, Emma could not sleep. She lay in her bunk and listened to the station system's hum. Somewhere nearby, Lyra was sleeping restlessly. Emma thought about Earth. She thought about the storms that had killed her grandfather, the heat waves that had destroyed crops, the earthquakes that had collapsed buildings. She thought about the animals that humans had hunted to extinction and the diseases that still killed thousands of people every year. She thought about her own childhood. The near drowning at age 7, the broken arm at age 12, the fever that had lasted weeks when she was 15. She had survived all of these things. She had learned to get back up every time something knocked her down. The morning arrived with a siren. Emma's alarm was not a light or a sound, it was standing in her doorway. "Physical training now," he said. Emma dressed quickly and followed him. The training bay was enormous. Hundreds of cadets were already assembled. Instructors moved through the crowd. They selected individual cadets and placed them in different areas. Emma was directed to a platform with other humans and a few aliens from species that had selected for extreme protocols. The trainer was a warrior race known for physical strength and mental toughness. She looked at the group with cold eyes. "You will hold this position," she said, "until I tell you to stop." The position was simple. Stand with your feet shoulder-width apart, arms extended in front of you, legs bent at the knees. A small weight was placed in each of Emma's hands. The trainer left. Minutes passed. Emma's arms began to burn. Around her, other cadets started to shake. A diplomat began to sweat visibly. An hour passed. Some cadets collapsed. They were replaced by new ones. Emma remained standing. The weight was trivial. The position was uncomfortable, but it was not pain. 2 hours, 3. The trainer returned and looked at each cadet. When she saw Emma still standing unmoved, she tilted her head slightly. "You may stop," she said. Emma lowered her arms carefully. She was not tired. She was not even particularly. The training chamber was white and empty. Emma stood alone in the center while Commander circled her like a predator examining prey. The walls were transparent. Dozens of other cadets watched from the observation area. This was part of the strategy. Humiliation when witnessed. "You survived the first week," said. "That is not impressive. Survival is the minimum. I have trained creatures from species that live in frozen gas clouds. I have trained beings that exist in pure energy form. Every single one learned to obey. Every single one understood that their individual desires mean nothing." Emma stood straight. Her arms hung at her sides. "You are standing incorrectly," continued. "Your feet are too close together. Move them further apart. Now your posture is too rigid. Relax. No, that is too much relaxation. You are undisciplined. Return to the previous position." Emma adjusted her stance repeatedly. Each time found something wrong. After 20 minutes, her instructor stopped. "This is what discipline looks like. You follow instructions exactly. You do not think, you do not question, you do not form opinions about whether the instructions make sense. You are a tool. Tools do not reason. Tools do not feel. Tools obey." Emma remained silent. "You are not responding. Do you not understand the words? I speak in simple English. A child could understand. Perhaps your species is incapable of grasping complex concepts. Tell me, can you understand what I am saying?" "Yes," Emma said quietly. Louder's voice became sharp. "Respond as if you respect the question." "Yes, I understand," Emma said. "Now you are aggressive. That is the problem with young cadets. You cannot control your tone of voice. You cannot control your emotions. You are ruled by instinct instead of discipline." Moved closer. "You will stand in this chamber for 8 hours. You will not move. You will not speak. You will not sit. When I return, I will ask you to repeat the Academy oath. You will say it perfectly, no mistakes. No stumbling over words. Is that clear?" "Yes, Commander." "Good, begin." Left the chamber. Emma was alone again, but she could still feel the eyes of watching cadets from the observation area. She stood motionless. Hour after hour passed. Her legs began to ache. Her back began to burn. Her feet went numb. This was nothing like Earth. On Earth, she had stood for days in survival training. She had held positions for hours during military preparations. She had endured pain that made this feel like rest. Emma thought about her fellow human cadet had nearly broken during the morning session. An instructor had criticized everything did for 3 hours straight, had finally asked to stop. The instructor had let him leave but noted the failure in his permanent record. Emma had told something that evening. "They are trying to hurt you with words, but words cannot make you fail. Only you can do that. Earth already hurt us worse than this. We survived it. We can survive this too." Had looked at her with understanding in his eyes. He was beginning to see what Emma had realized from the first moment the academy began. The instructors had no idea what they were dealing with. The 8 hours ended, returned and asked Emma to recite the academy oath. Emma did it perfectly, not because methods had created discipline in her, but because Emma had simply memorized the words. She had no emotional reaction to the test. "Very well," said, and Emma could hear something in the commander's voice that she could not quite identify. Was it frustration? You are dismissed." That night, Emma sat with and Lyra in the recreation area. The woman was studying the academy rules with unusual intensity. "I do not understand," Lyra said, her color shifting to confused brown. "Emma, you have had the longest training sessions. Commander has criticized you more than any other cadet, yet you show no signs of breaking. I watched during the standing test. You did not even shake." "I am not going to break," Emma said simply. "Neither are you, Lyra, neither is we are from Earth. Earth broke us already. We are just healing here." Nodded slowly. "My parents died in the climate wars when I was 12. I had to survive alone for 3 years before being found. Anything this academy does to me seems small compared to that." Lyra's color shifted to understanding yellow. "I see. Your world prepared you. My world did not. My family paid for my position because we are wealthy and wanted status. We did not prepare me for suffering." "Then prepare yourself now," Emma said. "Stop expecting the academy to be fair. Stop expecting the instructors to care about your feelings. Stop expecting pain to matter. Accept that you will be uncomfortable. Accept that you will be criticized. Accept that you will be humiliated. Once you accept these things, they lose their power to break you." Over the next week, Emma watched as the other human cadets began to shift their approach. They stopped flinching when instructors shouted. They stopped showing emotion when criticized. They completed tasks without complaint. Slowly, their training sessions became less intense. The instructors seemed puzzled. Their tactics were not working. Commander's crystalline form seemed to change color more frequently now, a sign of disturbance that the other cadets had learned to notice. The commander increased the intensity of sessions with Emma. Long hours of standing in uncomfortable positions, endless repetition of tasks, detailed criticism of minor mistakes, hours of reading academy doctrine and reciting it perfectly. But Emma never broke, she never cried, she never asked to stop, she never showed anything but calm acceptance. One day, during a particularly intense session, another cadet named David broke. David was a diplomat species known for emotional sensitivity. He collapsed during a standing test and began crying. The instructors removed him, and he did not return to the academy. Emma felt something for David. She understood that not every species could do what humans could do. Humans had been shaped by a world of constant danger. That shaping created something different, something that could endure. Watched Emma after David was removed. The commander stood very still, the crystalline form reflecting the light in new patterns. "You are calm because you expect suffering," said finally. "You are calm because your world has already made you accept pain as normal. This is not discipline. This is damage." "Perhaps," Emma said, "but damage that makes you strong is better than comfort that makes you weak." For a moment there was silence. His form flickered with colors that Emma could not read. Then the commander turned and walked away. That night, Emma knew something had changed, was beginning to see something that the commander had never encountered before. And in the coming days, that realization would lead to something unexpected, something that would change how the entire academy viewed the human cadets forever. Emma stood at the observation window and looked out at the stars. Somewhere among those stars was Earth, her home, the world that had taught her to survive, the world that had broken her and made her stronger because of it. The grand discipline chamber was filled with over 1,000 cadets. Every major instructor was present. This was the test that no cadet had survived intact. Commander had designed this session personally. It was called the Breaking Ceremony, and it had worked on every single cadet in the Academy's history. Emma stood in the center of the circular chamber. The light was harsh and white, stood on an elevated platform looking down at her. "Emma Carter's voice echoed through the space. "You have been training for 3 weeks. During this time I have watched you closely. You have failed repeatedly. You have shown weakness. You have demonstrated that you are not suited for advanced training. You lack discipline. You lack focus. You lack the mental strength required for military excellence." The words were carefully chosen. Each one had been tested on hundreds of other cadets. Each one had been designed to cut deep and draw out fear and shame. Emma remained still. "I will detail your failures," continued. "In the first week, you did not adjust your stance correctly without multiple corrections. This shows you do not listen carefully. A true soldier anticipates instructions and adjusts before being told. You are slow to understand. You require repetition like a child requires teaching." Emma felt the eyes of 1,000 cadets watching her. In the observation areas, other instructors leaned forward, anticipating what came next. In the second week, you completed the meditation chamber test, but your breathing pattern was irregular. You do not control your body. Your body controls you. This is the weakness that defines inferior species. You are driven by physical need and emotion rather than pure will. Descended from the platform and walked in circles around Emma. In the third week, you formed a social bond with another human cadet, and attachment weakens soldiers. You should have maintained distance from others. Instead, you created a group that reinforces each other's weaknesses. You are a follower. You cannot stand alone. You require support from others because you are fundamentally fragile. Emma's eyes remained forward. Her breathing was steady. Your species, said voice rising, evolved on a hostile planet. You had to learn to survive, but survival is the minimum achievement. I have trained creatures that survived worse environments than Earth. I have trained beings that faced extinction and rebuilt their civilizations. Mere survival does not make you exceptional. It makes you ordinary. Thousands of species have survived impossible odds, but you, Emma Carter, have done nothing to distinguish yourself from them. You are average. You are replaceable. You are a mistake in my academy. This was the moment. This was when cadets typically broke, when the weight of accumulated criticism, combined with the public nature of the humiliation, finally crushed their sense of self. Knew from centuries of experience exactly when the emotional damage would become visible. It usually happened between now and the next few sentences. Prepared the final blow. Your world is dying, Emma. Your species is fatting. Soon you will all be extinct and no one will remember that you ever existed. You came to this academy hopping to prove something. You came hopping to show that humans could be warriors, but you have proven only that humans are weak, fragile, and temporary. You will return to Earth and watch your world end. That is the legacy of your species. That is your future. Emma began to laugh. It started as a small sound. Then it grew louder. Her laugh echoed through the chamber like bells ringing. It was genuine. It was real. It was the most authentic sound anyone had heard in that space in years. Every cadet froze. Every instructor straightened. The entire academy seemed to hold its breath. Emma's laughter continued for several seconds. Then she took a deep breath and looked directly at. I am sorry, Commander, Emma said, still smiling. But I just realized something. You are trying to hurt my feelings. That is what all of this is. Harsh words, criticism, public humiliation. You are trying to make me feel bad about myself. Its crystalline form began to change color rapidly. Flashes of red and black appeared in its surface. Emma continued. On Earth, my mother died when I was 8 years old, real death, not transfer to another consciousness, not simple rest. Gone forever. For a year I did not smile. For 2 years I barely spoke, but I survived that. My grandfather died in a storm when I was 10. I watched him try to save my family from floodwaters. He failed. He died. I had to accept that. I had to live with that knowledge every day. Emma's voice grew stronger. When I was 12, I broke my arm badly. The bone came through the skin. The pain was not philosophical. It was not something I could overcome with better attitude. It was real, physical agony, but I endured it. I learned that pain ends. I learned that injury heals. I learned that suffering is temporary, but survival is permanent. She looked at each part of the chamber, making eye contact with other cadets. You tried to hurt me today, but you only used words. Words cannot equal the weight of real loss. Words cannot compare to physical pain. Words cannot touch someone who has already experienced actual harm. Earth has hurt me worse than any academy ever could. Earth has shown me loss and pain and fear, and I survived all of it. So your criticism, your humiliation, your harsh judgment, these things are small. They are nothing compared to what I have already endured. Emma's smile never faded. I came to this academy to learn to be a soldier. I understand now that I am already a soldier. I was forged in fire and chaos. You cannot break me, Commander, because I was already broken and I learned how to become whole again. The silence in the chamber was absolute. Commander's crystalline form had stopped changing colors. The commander stood completely still, looking at Emma with something that could have been shock or something deeper. Lyra sat in the observation area, her color a bright, shimmering gold. She was watching her friend with complete understanding. Next to her was nodding slowly, as if Emma had said something he had always known to be true but could not articulate. Other cadets began to understand. Around the chamber, beings from different species began to whisper to each other. The humans who had come from Earth. The humans who had survived their world. The humans who could not be broken because they had already experienced being broken. Turned away from Emma and walked toward the exit chamber. The commander's movements were slow. The crystalline form reflected light in confused patterns. At the doorway, paused. "You are dismissed," the commander said quietly. Emma walked from the chamber. As she passed other cadets, she could see something different in their eyes. The fear was gone. The anticipation of breaking was gone. It had been replaced by something else, something that looked like hope, something that looked like understanding. Commander did not appear in the training chambers for 3 days. This was unprecedented. Had never been absent. Even when recovering from injury, the commander had continued to oversee cadets. Now the academy operated in a strange state of transition. Other instructors conducted the sessions, but they seemed uncertain. Word spread through the academy about what had happened in the discipline chamber. The human girl had laughed at. She had spoken back. She had not broken. In the archives section of the academy, sat alone and studied human history. The records were vast. The commander pulled up data on Earth's geological history, constantly shifting plates beneath the surface. Massive earthquakes that destroyed civilizations, volcanic eruptions that blocked the sun and killed crops, tsunamis that drowned millions, hurricanes and tornadoes and hail and lightning. The world that produced humans was not a gentle place. Reviewed the biology data. Humans had predators, big predators, saber-toothed cats that hunted them for, giant bears, reptiles that could kill with a single bite, even smaller animals, spiders that carried deadly venom, snakes, scorpions. Humans evolved without natural armor, without claws or fangs or thick hide. Humans had only intelligence and the will to survive. Then came disease. Read the records of pandemics, plague that killed half of Europe's population, smallpox that devastated civilizations, influenza, tuberculosis, AIDS, cholera, malaria, millions upon millions of humans dead from invisible enemies that could not be fought with strength or speed. Then came human history, war after war after war, humans fighting other humans, famine created by conflict, slavery, genocide. Humans had endured an endless cycle of suffering created by their own kind. Accessed video records, humans climbing mountains in thin air where the body could not function properly. Humans diving to depths where pressure would crush most beings. Humans running until their hearts should have failed, simply to move from one location to another. Humans working through injury, through illness, through grief. And the grief records were the most striking. Humans lost loved ones constantly. On Earth, death was not rest. Death was permanent, final. Watched footage of humans at funeral ceremonies. The pain was visible, it was real. Yet the humans continued living afterward. They returned to work. They raised children. They built new things. They did not cease functioning. They did not require psychological reconstruction. They simply accepted loss and continued. Accessed the records of Emma's life. She had submitted them as part of her academy application. Mother deceased. Emma was 8 years old when her mother died of cancer. A disease, a slow destruction of her body. Emma had watched it happen. Father absent. Emma had never known him. He had left before she was born. Grandfather deceased. Emma was 10 years old when he drowned attempting to save family members from floodwaters. Emma had also survived a broken arm, a severe fever, a near-drowning incident at age 7. She had been raised in poverty for several years. She had lived through 2 different climate conflicts. She had experienced homelessness twice. And she had applied to the academy. Processed this information slowly. The commander had trained 847 cadets before Emma. Every single one came from species that had achieved stability. They had family support. They had never experienced real loss. The worst thing that had happened to most of them was social rejection or minor physical injury. Emma had not only survived loss and injury, Emma had done so multiple times before reaching adulthood. Understood now what Emma had said. The academic discipline protocol was not designed to break someone who had already experienced genuine breaking. The psychological tactics were useless against someone who had already survived genuine trauma. The public humiliation meant nothing to someone who had endured real isolation. 3 days of research led to one conclusion: humans were not broken by discipline because they had already survived being broken. Earth had shaped them. The hostile environment had created something different from other species. Humans could endure because endurance was encoded into their very nature. And there was something else. Reviewed the records of Emma's behavior during training. She had not just survived. She had helped other human cadets understand their own nature. She had formed a bond with Lyra, sharing knowledge of how to cope with hardship. She had become stronger, yes, but in a way that made others stronger too. Commander left the archives and made the only logical decision. The Academy's training protocols needed to change. The restructuring took 2 weeks. New instructors were brought in. New methods were designed, compiled research on biology and psychology. The commander presented findings to the Academy Council. Humans and other species require different training protocols, told the Council. Traditional discipline methods are ineffective because they target psychological vulnerabilities that species do not possess. These species have already experienced genuine trauma. Their psychological frameworks are designed for survival, not comfort. Traditional discipline creates minor discomfort. It cannot create breaking in those who have already survived breaking. The Council questioned, did this mean humans could not be trained? No, it meant they had to be trained differently. Instead of psychological breaking, human cadets needed clear objectives. They needed to understand the purpose behind each task. They needed to be challenged physically and mentally in ways that simulated real danger. They needed to compete against genuine threats, not artificial humiliation. Humans are also social bonders, continued. This is not weakness. This is their strength. They are more effective in groups. Training protocols should encourage this bonding rather than prevent it. A human unit with strong bonds is more dangerous than 10 isolated humans. This is different from other species, but it is not inferior. It is simply different. The Council approved the restructuring. 1 week later, Emma was called to personal chamber. She was not sure what to expect. Maybe she was being dismissed for her behavior in the breaking ceremony. Maybe she was being punished. Instead, she found Commander standing in a garden area. The Academy had gardens, small places with carefully maintained plants from a dozen different worlds. Was looking at a flowering plant from the... You showed me something I did not expect, said without turning around. I have spent centuries training military cadets. I thought I understood all the ways that young beings could break. I was wrong. Emma waited. I read about your world, continued. I read about your loss, your pain, your survival. I understand now why my methods did not work. I was trying to cause suffering in someone who had already survived genuine suffering. It was like trying to teach water to be wet. Finally turned to look at Emma. The commander's crystalline form shimmered with colors that Emma was beginning to recognize as respect. I am changing the Academy's protocols, not because you defeated me, but because you taught me something real. You taught me that breaking is not the only form of strength. You taught me that survival itself shapes the soul. And you taught me that some species cannot be broken by discipline because they have already been broken by their world. And in that breaking, they learned something we must all learn. They learned that breaking is not the end. Breaking is the beginning. Gestured for Emma to walk with the commander through the garden. You will continue your training, so will the other humans, but the training will be different. It will be designed for beings who understand real hardship. It will be designed for the... And I believe you will become the finest soldiers this Academy has ever produced, not despite your past, because of it. Emma smiled. Thank you, Commander. Do not thank me, said. You did this, you showed me. That is what true strength is. Not the ability to survive orders, not the ability to endure pain, but the ability to help others understand their own strength. That is what you did. That is why you are here. And that is why this Academy will be better because of you. They walked through the gardens in silence. Emma understood that something fundamental had shifted. The advancement ceremony took place in the Grand Hall. Every cadet in the Academy was present. This ceremony happened once every 3 months. Usually only a handful of cadets achieved elite status. This time, something different would happen. Commander stood on the platform. The command was not in the harsh tone that had characterized all previous ceremonies. This voice was measured, almost solemn. We gather to recognize those cadets who have achieved excellence during this training period. Before I announce the names, I must first address all of you. This academy was founded on a principle that has guided military training for over 500 years. That principle was this: break the cadet down and build them back up stronger. That method has been effective, but it is not the only method, and we have discovered that it is not the best method for all species. The hall went silent, had never changed methodology. This was unprecedented. 3 weeks ago, I attempted to break a human cadet using traditional protocols. That cadet responded in a way that changed my understanding of strength. Instead of breaking, she laughed. She laughed because she understood something that I had not understood. She understood that discipline based on causing emotional pain is effective only against those who fear emotional pain, and she did not fear it because she had already experienced real pain. She had already experienced real loss. She had already been broken by life itself, and she had learned that breaking was survivable. Emma stood with the other human cadets. She could feel the attention of the entire hall turning toward her section. I spent 3 days studying human history. I learned about Earth, a world of constant danger, plate movements that create earthquakes, weather patterns that kill, predators that hunt, diseases that spread, and through all of this, humans survived, more than survived. They built civilizations, they created art and music and stories, they formed bonds with each other, they raised children, they endured because endurance was not a choice, it was the only option. Descended from the platform and walked through the hall. The commander moved between sections of cadets, making eye contact with each species. We have changed our training protocols, not because traditional methods do not work, but because we now understand that different species require different challenges. Species from hostile worlds require different training than species from safe worlds. That is not a weakness in those species. It is a difference, and difference is not inferior. Difference is simply different. Return to the platform. In this ceremony, I am announcing the first cadets to achieve elite status under the new protocol. Elite status in our academy means that a cadet has achieved the highest level of military excellence. These cadets have shown courage. They have shown discipline. They have shown the ability to adapt and learn. But most importantly, they have shown the ability to make others around them stronger. Raised a crystal staff that glowed with blue light. The first elite cadet came to this academy from Earth. He survived the new protocol with distinction. He adapted to challenges designed for his species. He learned to push beyond what he thought possible, and he taught his fellow human cadets that survival is not just a personal achievement. It is a foundation for building others up. Step forward. Walked forward and the academy applauded. In tradition, applause was a show of respect and recognition. The second elite cadet is Lyra of the Swarm. Lyra showed extraordinary courage in changing her approach to training when she realized that her species required different methods. She was brave enough to learn from a human cadet. She was humble enough to accept that her training needed to evolve. Lyra of the Swarm stepped forward. Lyra moved forward, her color bright gold. The third elite cadet is Emma Carter. Emma came to this academy as an experiment. Some wondered if could be trained like other species. Emma showed that not only could humans be trained, but that they could teach. She understood something profound about strength and shared that understanding with others. She did not seek to become elite. She sought to help others become stronger. And in doing so, she became the finest soldier this academy has produced in a century. Emma Carter stepped forward. Emma walked forward. As she did, something unexpected happened. The human cadets in the hall began to stand. Then the cadets began to stand. Then cadets from other species. Within moments, the entire academy was standing. Not because of academy protocol, but because of genuine respect. Emma reached and received the crystal staff that marked elite status. The staff glowed with a light that was stronger than the others, different, unique. You have all heard the story of what happened in the breaking ceremony, said to the entire academy. Emma Carter laughed during discipline. Many of you thought this was disrespectful. Many of you thought she was rejecting the authority of this academy. She was not. She was showing us the truth. She was showing us that some beings cannot be broken by discipline because they have already been broken by life. And they have learned that breaking is not destruction. Breaking is transformation. Looked directly at Emma. 500 years of academy tradition said that cadets must be broken to be rebuilt. But you showed us that some species are already broken, and already rebuilt, already transformed. They do not need to be destroyed to be made strong. They already are strong. They are strong because they survived. And that strength cannot be taken from them or added to them. It can only be recognized and directed toward purpose. The ceremony continued. Other cadets received advancement, but the memory of Emma receiving the elite staff lingered in the minds of every being present. That evening, Emma stood at the observation window in the academy's highest point. From here, she could see the vast darkness of space. Stars stretched in every direction. Somewhere among them was Earth, her home, the world that had shaped her. Appeared beside her. The commander's crystalline form caught the starlight and refracted it into beautiful patterns. You are thinking about home, said. It was not a question. Yes, Emma replied. But I am not thinking about going back. I am thinking about what home taught me. I am thinking about my mother, about my grandfather, about everyone I lost and everyone I survived without. And I am thinking about how that pain made me what I am. "You will leave this academy soon," said. "You and the other human cadets. You will return to the galactic military forces. You will serve in units with other species. And you will be stronger than anyone expected. But more importantly, you will teach others what you have learned here." "What is that?" Emma asked. "That breaking is not the end. That hardship is not weakness. That surviving impossible things creates strength that cannot be removed or diminished. That humans and other are not inferior because they have suffered. They are exceptional because they have survived their suffering. And that survival is the foundation of true strength." Turned away from the window. "When new cadets arrive in 3 weeks, some of them will be humans. They will look at the academy with fear and uncertainty, just as you did. I want you to leave them a message. I want you to tell them that this academy was designed by species who did not understand that some beings carry strength in their bones. Strength earned through survival. Strength that cannot be taught because it can only be lived. Tell them that they will not break here because they have already survived breaking. And that knowledge will set them free." Emma nodded. "I will tell them." 3 weeks later, Emma stood with the new cohort of human cadets, 15 of them fresh from Earth. They looked frightened and uncertain, just as Emma had been when she first arrived. Emma spoke to them without ceremony, simple words, no pretense. "I am Emma Carter. I came to this academy 3 months ago. I thought I would break here, but I did not break, and neither will you, because we are from Earth, and Earth already broke us. Earth taught us that survival matters more than comfort, that loss is survivable, that pain ends but strength remains. The academy is not going to teach you that. You already know it. You carry it in your bones. You carry it in your memories of loss and struggle. And that knowledge will make you a soldier that this academy has never created before. You will be a soldier who cannot be broken, because you have already been broken, and you learned that breaking is not the end." The new cadets listened. Some understood immediately, others would need time to understand. But Emma knew they would all eventually realize the same truth she had learned. That night, Emma received a message from Earth. Her foster mother had sent a video. Emma watched it in her quarters. "I am so proud of you," her foster mother said. "You left Earth to learn to be a soldier, but you were already a soldier. You have been a soldier since you learned to survive loss, since you learned to endure pain, since you learned to get back up every time something knocked you down. Everything else is just training. Everything else is just practice. You are exactly where you need to be." Emma saved the message. She thought about the ceremony. She thought about finally understanding what really were. She thought about the other cadets watching humans achieve elite status. She thought about the message she would leave for future human cadets. And she thought about Earth, the harsh, brutal, beautiful world that had shaped her, the world that had taken so much from her, the world that had also given her the strength to face anything. Emma looked out her window at the stars. Somewhere out there, the galaxy was learning that humans were different. Humans could not be broken by discipline because life itself had already broken them and taught them how to rebuild. The experiment had succeeded, but not in the way the Academy had expected. It had succeeded because understood something that sheltered species could never understand, that survival was victory, that endurance was strength, that being broken and becoming whole again was the greatest teacher of all. Emma Carter, the human girl who laughed during discipline, had changed not just the Academy. She had changed how the entire galaxy would think about forever. And it had all begun with a laugh, a simple laugh, the laugh of someone who had finally understood the truth. Breaking is not the end, breaking is the beginning. The end. E-Academy had been designed by species who had never truly suffered. Now it would be redesigned by someone who had learned what suffering actually taught, and it would be better for it. Behind them, in the observation areas, other cadets watched. The humans among them understood something profound. They were no longer in an academy that tried to break them. They were in an academy that finally understood what they really were. She had not defeated the academy through strength or military skill. She had defeated it through truth. And that truth was this: humans from Earth could not be broken by discipline because Earth itself had already broken them, and they had learned that breaking was not the end. Breaking was just the beginning of becoming stronger. The experiment, would later realize, had not gone as planned, but it had succeeded in a way the commander had never anticipated. It had revealed something profound about, something that would change how the galaxy viewed humanity forever. She was ready for whatever came next. Comfortable, she had held harder positions while climbing mountains on Earth. She had endured worse conditions while hiking through deserts. As Emma walked back to her quarters, she realized something important. The academy had been designed by species that had never experienced real hardship. They had created tests based on what they thought would break others. But Emma had already been broken by Earth. She had already been healed. She had already learned that survival mattered more than comfort. The real training was about to begin, and Emma Carter was finally starting to understand what that meant. The next day, Commander would begin her personal sessions. The instructor would use psychological tactics that had worked on every cadet before. Emma would soon discover that none of them would work on her, and when the laughter came, would understand something that would change everything.